Hello, friends and neighbors of the Bronx, and welcome to Bronx Talk. In presenting this weekly program over so many years, it's become clear that the borough of the Bronx is covered in the outside media one way, but there are realities that we in the Bronx are aware of, but people beyond our borders don't really know who we are or what the Bronx is really about. The Bronx Times has taken it one step further with a year-long series about the Bronx that's called Our Forgotten Borough, where they use investigative reporting to fill in those blank spaces. So let's get to it. Please join me in welcoming the editor of the Bronx Times. It is Lesley Cosme Torres. Nice to have you with us, Lesley.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming by. And a Bronx Times reporter is Marina Samuel. Nice to have you with us. And it occurred to me when I put the note Bronx Times reporter, that was the original name of the Bronx Times.
Yeah.
So you are embodying the Bronx Times reporter. Anyway, thank you for coming as well.
Thank you.
Lesley, let's just start with you. And I thought, which I mentioned to you earlier, I thought it would be worthwhile for folks to meet you because you're both relatively new at one of the historic, journalistic operations of the Bronx. So tell us about coming to the Bronx Times and who you are and what's interesting to you about all the great things you do.
Yeah, I'm Lesley, obviously. I was born in this great city, and I've spent my whole life here. After, I went away to college, and when I went to college, I realized, people didn't really understand, the place that I came from. I always got, a negative reaction when I would say that I was from the Bronx, and I've worked at several other newspapers, and this place is special to me. When I took the job, I was like, how amazing is it that I get to come home and write about people that I know about, places that I care about. So it's really great to be here.
What is distinctive about the Bronx that attracts you to the borough and made you feel bad about what other people think, and also, of course, makes you so valuable to all of us at the Bronx Times?
Yeah, I think when we're from a place, Marina's also from the Bronx, I think you have a different perspective than someone who's an outsider, I guess. But I think what draws me to the Bronx is that it just means more. Not that it means more to me, but just that I feel like it's home. And I feel like now I have this job where I can, contribute to the community and help in a positive way.
The people, I'm saying what probably all our friends and neighbors in the Bronx know. The people, the culture, what stands out for you and what makes it so distinct?
It's definitely the people. Yeah.
The people,
yeah.
who we are.
Yeah, I think that's really what makes the Bronx, for sure.
So in a way, this series, the Forgotten Borough, fits right in with that agenda. So just what was the idea going? And we'll be right with you in a second. We'll find out about Marina in a second. But what about the borough made you say we need to remind or tell people about our Forgotten Borough?
Yeah, the idea of it was sort of when I was being hired is there a way that we can highlight the Bronx in a way that other people might understand better? Sort of when I was hired, we were thinking about the Bronx is sort of undercovered, we don't have a ton of newspapers covering the entire borough. There are so many things about the Bronx that people don't fully understand. We sort of have the idea of oh, there might be gentrification, there might be crime, but is there more? Can we talk about the people? Can we talk about the culture? Can we talk about people who have lived in the Bronx for 50 years, people in the Bronx who are leaving? If there are all these issues, can we figure out why?
Our issues. We know about all the statistics that put us at number 62 in healthcare, and we can look in poverty. We can look at everything, but these are our issues, and if we sit here and wait for the big media to cover it, it hasn't happened yet. That's why we have you and the Bronx Times. Marina, let's just find out about you. You had written, you told me, for a couple of other publications while you were in school. Talk a little bit about why journalism and why this is important to you.
Yeah, so before entering journalism, I worked in higher ed for CUNY, and it was really great, but I found that I wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to focus on my community, so I decided to go back to graduate school. I went to the Craig Newmark Graduate School for Journalism, and there I found a really great community paper that was run by the students called the Mott Haven Herald, and we really got the chance to cover undercovered issues that were very hyper-local.
Here we are.
Yeah, and specific to our community. And it was pretty unique because I was one of maybe 2 students who were actually from the Bronx in that class. So it's really just great to highlight the voices of the people who are your neighbors.
I'm going to ask you, and then I'll ask Lesley the same question. Why journalism? What about journalism made you say, I want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, when I worked in higher ed, I worked with Bronx schools specifically, and there were always, issues that, students in the Bronx faced that that students in Manhattan didn't face. So I felt that it was important to get that narrative out in some way that would elevate it and kind of put it on an equal importance as other people in the city.
This is actually fascinating to me, to be honest, because both of you are, you're journalists, but you're motivated by the subject matter to be journalists because you're compelled to tell the story. I mean, that's what I've heard from both of you. And so I guess I'm answering my own question, but for you, why journalism and why writing? And we're about to get into frankly, a troubling story for me, for everybody. But why do you want to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think the reason I want to do it for the Bronx Times specifically is I feel like we get to be a place.
Sorry, go ahead.
We get to be a place that's not just telling, Bronx, there's this crime, there's this shooting. We get to be a place that's let's highlight the community, let's talk about a small business opening. So I think that, but I think on the front of why journalism, my mom always said that I was innately curious, whenever I asked a question and I didn't get the response I wanted, I would ask the same question again and again. So I feel like,
oh boy, you're in the right place and in the right business for that. And in a way, for me, hosting this show all these years, it's the same kind of thing. In other words, I get the joy of talking about all the issues, and frankly, some of the issues are not so pretty. And this, we're going to start off with this story, which is in our Forgotten Borough. This is the story about the death of a mom while giving birth to her son. It's mind-blowing to me. Explain to me about the story of Bruce McIntyre, and to me and to all of us, Bruce McIntyre and his fiancée, Amber Rose Isaac, who died in 2020. It's an amazing story, and what I really appreciate is Lesley really drew it out and have us understand it. So explain to the folks what it's about.
Yeah, so we had an idea of because there's so many maternal mortality rates, we're the worst borough in the entire city. I sort of wanted to find a family who had gone through that. And when I met Bruce McIntyre, he took me through this whole journey of what happened to his wife, Amber. It sort of started as soon as she realized she was pregnant, she felt like she was treated differently from her doctors. She felt like she wasn't really heard or understood, and it wasn't until they got a second opinion that they heard that, her blood counts were super down, her blood platelet counts were super down, not where they were supposed to be. So it wasn't, they had to get a second and a third opinion, and then they finally...
And just to jump in there, so, and that was because of neglect. They hadn't found it out all along the way.
Yes, they kept asking their doctors at Montefiore, is there, Amber's not feeling well, she's feeling really sick, she never feels like this, is there a way that, we can get another opinion, can you run some tests? And they basically refused her, and...
No, that's okay. So that, and then ultimately she died. I mean, this was a series of things that happened. The thing that is in the center of the story, the gynecologist, the allegation is that the gynecologist, and this is specifically right out of the story, realized that she was black, pregnant, unmarried, and believed that influenced their behavior. I mean, that is incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, it was based on what Bruce was telling me, but it was just sort of comments that they told him and Amber. So it was when she, I don't know if you got to the part where she...
I read them all. Go ahead.
There was a part where she tweeted right before she was induced birth that I can't wait to do a tell-all about my experience here, being pregnant at Montefiore. And hours after that, they figured out they finally figured out there was something wrong with her, and they had to induce labor, and that's where she died.
Wow.
And she never wanted a C-section. Like she never wanted that to be her experience. And Bruce said up until that moment when she was taken into the hospital that they knew something was going to happen, and she was really afraid of dying. She was like, please don't let me go in there by myself.
They're so disturbing. The allegations are so disturbing. And now I'll say right up front, Montefiore was contacted and they didn't respond because now there is a lawsuit, and of course, as this often happens, they say, with pending litigation, we're not going to respond. So I'm sure there is a response. It's just, I can't get my arms around it because it's so disturbing. The other thing is the time frame. We're now, the little boy, we hope he's well and we hope he's enjoying school in the Bronx, et cetera, et cetera. He's 5 years old, so this happened in 2020. The lawsuit is still unresolved. What's the status of it?
Yeah, the lawsuit is still unresolved. Bruce was telling me he thought it was sort of, not that it was planned, but it was just like he's not sure like why it hasn't continued. And I'll also
is that a legal problem with frankly their representation?
Yeah, they just like refuse, or not that they refused to comment, but they couldn't comment on ongoing litigation.
Well, that we know, they wouldn't.
I'll also add that right after Amber died, and when Bruce went back to to get his son, he was told by the hospital that there was actually like no proof that he was the father. Now that his because Amber died, so he had to go through he had to go through court
or paternity
court
to get custody of the child
of his son.
Sorry. I'm a parent and a grandparent. It's not an easy thing to hear. But again, the case itself, I just read some of the stuff. They alleged that they were denied services and asked to come back later, and the gynecologist they found out had not submitted the paperwork to the lab. Mm-hmm. So here's the question, and you're much closer to it than I am. Is it because that particular doctor and the gynecologist was just bad at the job, that the gynecologist may have had some racial issues, or do we think this is a systemic thing, potentially at Montefiore? I mean, which is the largest industry and the largest employer in the Bronx, et cetera?
That's a great question. After we published our story, we got a lot of responses from mothers emailing us on social media, saying that, the same thing happened to me at Montefiore. Really? They also had really bad experiences. So I feel like this could be a doctor-only thing, but I think this is also something that a lot of mothers have experienced giving birth in the Bronx.
I'm just thinking out loud because I read the articles, and this is why the borough is forgotten and why they're reporting on it, because these people are literally, who they are is literally forgotten. Mm-hmm. I wonder, just thinking out loud, if there could be a class action suit if other people think the same way. And of course, your article would start it. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Montefiore and listed several doctors in 2022. 4 years, that's what my arithmetic tells me. And a court date has yet. There's something very bizarre about this to me. Number one, that it happened, et cetera, and of course they declined to comment. I will just read you a quote right out of Lesley's article. As a black woman, it doesn't matter what your status is or what your accolades are. They're going to treat you like you're uneducated. They're going to treat you like you are undeserving. That is truly extraordinary. Marina, we'll get to you in a moment, because this is also another story that you wrote as part of the Forgotten Borough series. And this is, why is it more risky for a Bronx mom to have a baby than obviously mothers elsewhere? So why don't you start with that? These two are connected, it seems, these two stories. Go ahead, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this was sort of inspired by something I just kind of said offhand to our bosses, which is like when my mom was giving birth.
Your bosses at the paper?
At the paper, yeah. Okay. That when my mom was giving birth.
My friend Laura, by the way. Go ahead.
that when my mom was giving birth to me, she was sort of afraid in the same way that all of these mothers are. So she gave birth to me in Manhattan. So
Deliberately moved out of the Bronx.
yeah.
Wow.
And so they're like,
so there is a real. I was right for asking you the question about the personal nature for this.
so we were sort of figuring that out, and then we talked to mothers. We talked to like alternative services, so like doulas, midwives, and sort of like how people can feel like more represented when they're giving birth. So that was the thing that Bruce was telling me about Amber, was it wasn't until they got a doula / midwife to tell them like, oh, there's something wrong, and like now they had someone to advocate for her, but it wasn't until then, and then at that point it was too late.
We interviewed with the borough president about this very issue, and obviously Vanessa Gibson has taken it to heart. In your story, an expectant mother is more likely to die giving birth in the Bronx than any other borough in New York City, according to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So now the borough president started this initiative, when she became borough president a few years ago or soon after. Is this all connected? Is she on to something, and this is one of the answers? And then we'll talk about some of the initiatives that have taken place. I know that North Central Bronx has expanded their maternity ward and their services. They always had good services in that realm. Anyway, go ahead. Tell me all about it.
No, definitely. I was able to talk to her and talk to Bruce about how they've been working together about the birthing center.
The borough president working.
Yeah, she knows.
Oh, how interesting.
She knows him, but and their story. So yeah, working together to make a birthing center come to fruition is really important, especially for these mothers who feel like it's hard to give birth in the Bronx. So I definitely feel like that is one of the best solutions. There's only one birthing center in all of New York City right now, and it's in Brooklyn, which you can imagine is quite a hike.
Yeah, absolutely not. It has nothing to do with nothing to do with us, my friends in Brooklyn. And so let's see. The governor gave $5 million in November to open a birthing center in the Bronx. And the borough president put out, she talked about closing care gaps, and again, this is out of your story, for Black and Latino women, promoting holistic prenatal, postnatal care, etc., and delivered a Delivering Change report. So are we on the way to making this happen?
Yes.
Tell.
They are still not
sure. So maybe forgotten no more on this account. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're not sure about the exact date, and they still have to figure out a place to put this, but we are on the way for the Bronx to have a birthing center. So I think that's better than where we have been before.
So the governor put $5 million, made a $5 million commitment. In all of New York City, the Bronx has the highest number of low-risk pregnant mothers who at first did not need surgery, but ended up getting a cesarean. You mentioned that the woman who died got a cesarean as part of this inefficiency, I guess, that's what it is. Now, I looked it up. The birthing place is out there, and that is what we're getting. I mean, is that confirmed that this is what's happening?
The birthing place or the birthing center?
The birthing, you know better than me.
Yeah.
I thought it was called the birthing place.
Yeah, so the birthing place is sort of like a nonprofit, and it's they have doulas and midwives, basically, like I was saying earlier, who can advocate for mothers. But definitely, we found that there are a lot of these cases of mothers who died or they were close to dying, who were induced a C-section birth when they didn't want one. And so that's a really big issue. And then we also had a lot of people reaching out to us also on our social media accounts saying basically the same thing, that their birthing plan, they wanted to have a natural birth, they wanted to have a birth with a midwife, but they ended up not being listened to, and then they had to have a C-section anyway.
Wow, what? We had Borough President Gibson on BronxTalk, and we talked about specifically this very issue. It's something very important to her and to, of course, all of us. But you're doing the story really cements down, and then getting all that response makes it very clear that there is a real problem forgotten no more, remembered. Okay, this is really embarrassing. Why is she a good reporter? What makes her a good reporter?
Well, when we were hiring a reporter, like I just felt like as soon as we met, she's from the Bronx, like she's also like really passionate about it, so it wouldn't be like having to explain to someone like why something is important or like why people care. She already gets it. Like you don't have to
Bronx
explain.
language, she gets it. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
And also, based on the things that we talked about, it's clear you folks have the same vision and all that kind of stuff. Marina, you wrote about unsafe buses. Talk a little bit about what you wrote about, why you wrote about it, how you found out about it. Don't give away your sources, I get that.
Yeah. So we wanted to write a story that basically addresses why bus service in the Bronx is so unreliable. And something that signaled that was flagged to me as an avid bus rider is that when the bus doesn't come, there's often a sign that you see on the bus website that says we're running with as many operators and buses as possible. So I wanted to get to the bottom of that. I reached out to the union.
So wait, just one step back first, if you
Yeah.
would, and then we'll talk about how it went. So what you found was that people were saying it's inefficient, and then the response they were getting from the MTA was that it's all we got.
Well,
In essence.
Yeah, so that's what the MTA often says on the live tracking website is that, we're doing as much as we can with the
Wow.
buses and the operators we have available. So I wanted to basically get to the bottom of that. I spoke to the union and they said that this was lies. The operators are available, but the buses aren't. And I spoke to some people.
Sorry, I mean, it's just a classic bureaucratic inefficiency. I don't know what else
Yeah.
to say. Go ahead.
So I spoke to officials in the union, and they basically told me that they had recently conducted an audit of buses. So it went from, changing our story from why are buses unreliable to rather are Bronx buses even safe. And yeah, so they did this audit of brake lining reports specifically, and they found that the buses that were coming out of the Gun Hill Depot specifically, at least 23 buses were unsafe, but they were
Unsafe because of crime, or unsafe because the bus itself was
because of the bus itself. The brake
Right.
lining readings were dangerously low, and at that point, the
the
MTA
brake linings were dangerously low.
yeah, the readings were very low.
I'm sorry, I just had my rear brakes done because I didn't want to take a chance.
Yeah.
And yet keep going.
Yeah, so they usually, when the readings are low, MTA procedures would be to redline the bus, meaning that they take it off, they physically inspect it, they repair it. But these buses were being pushed out to meet service, and there's several issues that are because of this. One is that there's not enough mechanics to repair these buses.
Mechanics.
Yes.
So on one hand, there are drivers, but there aren't mechanics to repair.
Yes. Since COVID, a lot of vacancies grew. A lot of people retired, or they just quit the job, or they were fired. And then there was a hiring freeze during the pandemic, and those positions were just never filled.
MTA, I mean, I hate to give our folks the same answer that we heard. The MTA said no comment at this point.
Yeah, the MTA wouldn't comment on the staffing levels of the mechanics.
The MTA, of course, run by the state, right? State officials haven't been involved or aren't aware of this. And I guess maybe I should have asked this in the beginning. The biggest question is it just the Bronx?
No, so it is a citywide issue.
Citywide issue.
Yes, according to the union officials, this is happening in almost all the bus depots across the city. But the people that I spoke to at MABSTOA, which is the division that only focuses on the Manhattan and Bronx bus routes,
Right.
they wanted to focus, they just wanted to do one audit to pull evidence, and they focused on the Gun Hill Depot, which is responsible for about 20 bus routes in the Bronx.
This is a chart that you came up with and included in there. There was one route got an A grade. Do you know what route that was? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't remember, but I remember it didn't even make this chart, meaning that it's not a busy route.
Oh, it's not a busy route,
Yeah.
so they're doing well because they weren't that busy. If we could just put that up again for just a moment. I just want folks to look at the, see, you know, and folks can look and see their own bus routes there, the 7, the 9, the 19, the 36, and they're all below what they should be. Where do we go from here? How do we deal with it from here, or what do you recommend? I would think that state officials would have to get involved and lean on the NTA. Is it a financial problem? Is it a bureaucratic problem? I mean, this is a big thing. You ride the buses?
Yes.
What do you find?
What do I find?
What do you find? Is it okay?
Usually the buses just are never on time for me. I live in Bronxnet, so it's very hard to get anywhere. You need the buses if you want to get to the train, and you know, if you miss one bus, then you have to wait for the next bus to leave from the terminal, and that could delay you for about an hour.
I don't ride the buses regularly, but when I do ride them, and I have ridden them recently, as a matter of fact, they're incredibly inconsistent. In other words, some days you say, oh, wow, look at this, you know, you got one every 6 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever it is, and it's rush hour, so it's a little busier. And then the other day it was kind of a rush hour thing, and I was standing at a bus stop where there were three different bus lines, and 3 of the same bus came through. And I was like, and I was debating, do I walk, you know? Anyway, we're almost out of time. Lesley, what's next? You know, you've done this so far. You're going to do it all year. What's next?
Yes, our next part of the series is about food insecurity in the Bronx. So we're doing this in several different directions. We're focusing on Hunts Point, on like who feeds the Bronx, like access to grocery stores versus bodegas, seeing like how much it costs for people to get their groceries in the Bronx, sort of like several different angles. But
thank you for helping us not be forgotten anymore. Can you tell us something that you found out yet, or we're not ready to do that? I'm always looking for the exclusive, like you guys are.
Still in the works.
Oh,
but
okay. I won't push. And Marina, what aspect of that are you going to be working on?
I'm covering immigrant communities, specifically the Bangladeshi community in the Bronx.
Oh, I did see a note about that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And basically how they get all the food that, you know, they need, whether it's important ingredients, fresh vegetables. So we're just trying to document people's stories and how they are able to get food.
Got it. Hey, Lesley Cosme Torres, thank you. Congratulations on the job as editor of the Bronx Times. Thank you for being a Bronx Times reporter, Marina Samuel, and we appreciate you joining us. And keep up the great work. We need it in the Bronx. That will conclude the program. That's it. We want to thank producer Ray Pagnucco, the BronxNet production and editing crew, and of course to you two, the people of the Bronx. And we'll see you next week when we bring in, this is a totally different kind of show. We're going to talk about the 2026 baseball season. Good night. We'll see you then.